Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about Photograph, otherwise known as Wind the Film. This new version is from Matago. Originally it's from Sushi and Sushi, so that's why there's sort of two names for it. The theme has always been photography, and that does show through in the games. There's a few key things with Photograph that kind of sets it apart. Now first of all, once you've set the game up, one of the things you'll instantly notice is that card backs reveal information. They don't let you know exactly what the card is, but with all of the cards having certain colours, it lets you know what the colour is of the card, and it also lets you know if it's high or low. So it says on the back 1 to 6 and then 7 to 12 for a high card. So you can get a lot of information just from that. On a turn, you are basically going to be gaining cards. You're going to be then moving a card in your hand and playing cards. Now, the way this is done is very important. The order of your cards in your hand management, is so important in this game. From the very beginning, you draw cards into your hand, 5 of them, one by one. Each time placing the new card on the front of your hand, on the top, sort of if you were just drawing a pile. You can then not alter the order of those cards. It's a habit to sort of reorder cards and put the colours together maybe. You're not allowed to do that. So you start each turn by choosing a subject. And that means you name a number between 1 and 3 and take that many cards from either the left or the right of a row. So choosing 2, for an example, you take the first card, put it into your hand at the front, and then the second one, putting it in the front again. Again, that order of cards, very important. You can then, or you must, wind the film. Taking any card from your hand, apart from the very front one, you can move that card forward as many cards as you want in your hand. This is the only time you can reorder when doing this wind part of a turn. Now that could be moving the back card to the very front. It could be sort of just shuffling a card in the middle around a little bit. That's your chance to reorder the film. Then once you've done that, you need to take your picture and you play the cards from the back of your hand. So this is why the ordering is really important. When you play a card onto the table, it's based on the colour. If it's the first of a colour, any card is legal to play. When you come to play a second card of that colour, then it has to be within 3 up or down of that number. So for instance, if you've played the 12, you'd be able to play the 11, the 10 or the 9. If it's the 9, you could play the 3 cards above it or 3 cards below it. Now, once you've played a second card, that also adds another requirement. That colour is then either ascending or descending, and you have to stick to that. If you can't legally play a card, perhaps that card is higher or lower than the 3 value either side, or you can't stick to the requirement of ascending or descending, then that card is played out of focus, played face down, and that's going to lose you 2 points at the end of the game. At the end of each turn, you check to see if the field is basically empty. If there are 3 or fewer cards, then it is refilled. Now in a 2-player game, the cards are removed and a completely new field is dealt out, but in a 3 and 4-player game, new cards are just added. The game goes like this, with you basically playing out the different colours and trying to create almost runs of cards. They don't need to necessarily be consecutive numbers, but you're trying to obviously hit that gap of I can only go 1, 2 or 3 higher each time. Now at some point when you go to refresh the field, there will be a sunset card that comes out, and that's shuffled into almost near the bottom of the deck. When the sunset card comes out, it basically triggers a special event. Each player gets to wind, or must wind, a card forward in their hand, and then they play the 2 from the back of their hand. Now, you're not drawing any cards, which means your hand size for this final field is then down to 3. At the end of that final field, when it gets down again to 3 or fewer, instead of being refilled, the game ends. Each player does that same event again though, winding a card and playing the back 2 from their hand. the final card is just discarded. Now this is where it comes to scoring. Now players are going to get points based on the number of correctly or legally played cards in each colour. If you haven't done any of a colour, then you lose 3 points, but after at least playing one, you're going to gain points, and that progressively increases as you play more. Now, you're then losing 2 points for each of those out of focus cards, the ones you've had to play face down. And there are bonus cards. Now, I didn't mention these earlier, but apart from in the sunset and the final game event, if you ever have 4 or more of a certain colour played, then legally played, then you get a good shot card if you're the first to do so. And that's 5 bonus points. At the end, you're just going to calculate who's got the most points, with ties then broken by the number of those good shot cards. Now, for little books like this and kind of colourful, almost cute, cartoony storyboards, it builds itself up to be, Photograph builds itself up to almost be quite a light looking card game. It is not. If that is what you're looking for, don't get this game. I mean, it's a 20-minute game, so it doesn't take too long, but you know you've played it. You've had to think a lot, and it's all thanks to the way that you have to wind your hand. In every other card game, you just reorder your hand freely. In this, you can't. You are forced and stuck with what you've got. And that leads to some very interesting decisions. At times, you will need to just take a single card from the field, and then next time another one again, just to get that extra wind in almost. Other times, you'll have the back cards sort of nicely aligned, maybe not necessarily the same colour together, but just cards you can legally play, and you can afford to go for 2 or 3 and, you know, almost risk some of the face down cards. And that's all quite interesting and quite sort of intriguing to play. In terms of that gameplay, I think that works really well. It does just create a lot to think about, more so than I think anyone that's actually played it with me has imagined. Everyone's kind of been like, oh yeah, sure, a bit of thinky. And then once you've played that first game, you're like, oh, okay, I've done awful here. I've played loads of cards out of shot. And then after that, you certainly kind of twig a little bit of, oh, I need to play it like this. Now, with 2 people, you can sometimes see who's going to win. A lot of the games can be quite close, but with 2 people, and as soon as there's a third, I'm sure that it becomes harder just to read scores in any game. But with 2 with this, you can sometimes get to that sunset card, which triggers like the final round, and kind of you can see who's won. Because you play all the cards to the table, you can kind of see, okay, I've got loads of out of focus cards. That's a lot of minus points. You've got 2 or 3 of those good shot cards. You're gaining a bonus of 15. I'm losing like 10. There's no way I can catch up. And I think sometimes that kind of, it really does feel like, unless these cards are perfect for me, there's no point playing that final round. Most of the time, however, I think after people have played a game or 2, so everyone's kind of a level playing field then it's a lot closer. But certainly that first game, if you're teaching someone new, they will feel like they have no chance of winning, and that could put some people off. The card quality, really nice to shuffle. They're normal card size. They're not something like a weird shape or weird size. Really nice to shuffle. Like I said, colourful, cute artwork. It's kind of storyboardy, cartoony sort of stuff. It looks nice. It almost doesn't fit the sort of the thinky nature of it. But I love the idea of having to take a picture, wind the film manually and stuff like that. Obviously, we don't wind film anymore, but it kind of thematically does come out in this. The fact that you have to wind, there's no, oh, I don't want to wind this time because all the cards in the right order. No, you're taking a picture, you need to wind the film. So that kind of, the old school sort of cameras where you wind them with the film really does come through there. All in all though, it's a kind of good card game. I think I really like it. Whether I'll get to play it lots, I don't know, because I think it could put some people off. That first play, it's hard for a new person to compete, but after that they will be able to, but that could put a lot of people off. It's good. It's really, it's one of those ones where when you're playing it, you're thinking this is a really interesting and impressive design. Whether that will be enough for people to play it a couple of times and then really get into it, that's debatable. I really want to play it again. Whether other people want to play it, well, that's up to them and that's up to you. Anyway, Photograph, a great little card game, colourful, brain burning as hell, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.